Good afternoon. Welcome to our second Datacamp session focusing on Quick Start. Just as a reminder, please remember to stay muted with your camera turned off to minimize distractions. Also, please use the Zoom chat to ask us any questions or submit your thoughts. At the end of the session, the questions will be answered by our session speakers. This session is going to be presented by Sarah Davis. I'm going to turn things over to her now, and she'll give you a little bit more information on herself as well as the session information.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Davis. I'm the Senior Product Owner for the STAR team. It's nice to see so many people here today. Many of them I know have participated at least in one previous data camp with me. And for those that I haven't seen before, welcome. We're going to jump into our agenda. My goal with today's session is to hopefully get a whole bunch of questions answered. Feel free to use the chat. I will try to answer questions as we go along. That way we can get everybody further along than where you started from the beginning of today's session. So the things that I want to make sure everybody can walk away from today's session a bit is, what is Quicksight? How do I view dashboards? How do I create them? How do I share them? How do I get access? And then because Quicksight, there's so much capability, I will not be able to answer everything about Quicksight. So I want you to know where you can go to get more answers to your questions about Quicksight. All right, so what is Quicksight? Very simply, it's a BI tool that's fully managed and cloud-based from AWS. So it is able to integrate natively with data sources on Amazon Cloud. So things like S3 that we just learned about, your workbench, S3 folders, Redshift, and then other relational databases that other lines of business within CCSQ have running on AWS Cloud. It also allows you the ability to upload your own data, like flat files in CSV or Excel format. Quicksight, as a BI tool, like any other BI tool, allows you to create interactive dashboards and reports, and then you can share these with your users so that they can make data-informed decisions, which is essential to everything that we do at CCSQ and for CMS. Also, this Quicksight instance is CCSQ's Quicksight instance. So it's been integrated with HARP. So that means by default, anybody with a HARP ID or an EUA ID can automatically get access to CCSQ without doing anything. All they need to do is simply go to idm.cms.gov, and they will see the AWS CCSQ Quicksight tile, and they'll be able to click that and get into Quicksight. Because I'm a very pictorial person, I would like to kind of lay the land of where CCSQ Quicksight fits with all the rest of the analytic application and platforms that we have today. So Quicksight is one of the many analytic tools that we currently have available, Satisfy and Databricks being the others. It is able to connect with data from Satisfy and Databricks through any group's S3 bucket on the CDR side. We then integrate that data and make it available in Redshift, and then make that accessible to you in Quicksight. So hopefully that gives you some context of what Quicksight is and how it relates to everything else within the analytic platform for CCSQ. All right, how do I view dashboards in Quicksight? So I'm going to start with that perspective of what your end users are going to see. So after logging into CCSQ Quicksight, they can view dashboards in a few different ways. One of them is by just seeing that the dashboards is an available option on their navigation panel on the left-hand side of their screen. Also, shared folders are created for every different group within CCSQ, and based upon their permissions, they might see shared folders, and they'll be able to select that shared folder that's available to them and then see the dashboards within that have been published in that shared folder. They can also search by name. So if they know the name of your dashboard, they can search for it within Quicksight. They can also favorite it by selecting the star on it, and then it'll show up in their favorites navigation panel selection. I will note that if you have users who have logged into Quicksight for the first time without accessing a role in HARP, they will see dashboards. And those dashboards are dashboards that have been created by others, but have shared with all the users within CCSQ Quicksight. And we'll talk more about sharing a little bit later, but I just wanted to get that question out of the way first. All right, so now once you have your users into Quicksight and found your dashboard, I just wanted to kind of review on the ways that they will navigate a dashboard. So dashboards can be multiple tabs or sheets, or it can be a single long page printout. It's totally up to the dashboard developer to decide what makes the most sense for their users. Dashboard viewers can also, from that dashboard, decide that they want to favorite it and select the star and fill it in so that that'll then show up on their favorites navigation tab panel on the previous screen. Also, dashboards can be allowed to export the data that's in the visualization. This is set up at the time of the dashboard creation, and users can select that and then download a table of data based upon that visualization. What they don't get access to is the underlying data that goes into it. So if you provide an aggregate count of, you have 153 nursing homes in the state of Connecticut, they won't see each name of 153 nursing homes. They will just see 153 for that cell of Connecticut. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear on what your users will get access to versus you as a dashboard developer. Also, you can make your dashboards very interactive. You can set controls so you can filter across many different data values, and that will give your users the ability to see the big picture or drill in onto their particular area of interest based upon the data in your dashboard. Any sort of filtering based on the controls can be undone by using this reset button up here in the blue upper left-hand corner. Also, you can export a dashboard page as a PDF, and that's where that will download, is same area. You can also bookmark where you've gone in and you've filtered based upon the criteria you want in your controls. And if you want to bookmark that, so the next time you come to the dashboard, it automatically sets those controls for you. That's what that little bookmark icon does, is you can do your controls in the dashboard, go in and set the bookmark, and then the next time that same user comes back to the dashboard, it'll automatically take them to all those filters. So this is a way to help users come back to what their current work was the last time that they logged in. If you have a lot of users and you don't want to create a single dashboard for each kind of filtered version of that, you can set these up and help your end users set up bookmarks for themselves. All right, so how do I create a Quicksight dashboard? I'll also cover how to connect your data sets in your S3 workbench, and then also answer some questions about what is SPICE. All right, just to set the stage, there are two types of users in Quicksight. You're either a viewer, which means you view dashboards created by authors, and you're the person who's making decisions based upon the data in that dashboard. Your view on the navigation panel within Quicksight is going to be limited. You will only see dashboards as an available option on that left-hand navigation panel. You can also be an author. Authors are the ones who create and then publish dashboards for the users to use. This also means that you have access to data sources such as the CDR. You can tell that you're an author if you log into Quicksight, and on your left-hand navigation panel, you also see beyond dashboards, you see analyses and data sets. All right. Setting up the foundations for the Quicksight terminology about how to use Quicksight and how to build dashboards. There's 4 main assets that are used within Quicksight. One of them is actually going to be outside of Quicksight, and that's your data source. So this is the data that you're using from the CDR, data you've collected in a flat file that you need to make a visualization off of. And then you upload that or connect to it from Quicksight, and then you are able to create a data set within Quicksight. This then is the building blocks for building an analysis. So this is where you're going to actually use that data set, create the visualizations, create the reports, create the interactive control features. And then once that your analysis is complete and you're ready to share it with your viewers, you then publish it as a dashboard. So an analysis has access to the underlying data sets, but the dashboard, once it's published, just visualizes the data in that dashboard. It does not directly connect to the data set or to the data source. So this is a way to partition viewer access to the underlying data. They just see what's in the dashboard and nothing that went into feeding that dashboard. All right, so as an author, you will see data sets as in your left-hand navigation panel. You can access existing data sets. This is based upon permissions from HARP. And I just wanted to quickly go through the various different types of data sets that you'll see potentially. And each icon represents a different data source that you can connect to from Quicksight. So the little blue thing right here is a Redshift. You have the stacked disks, which are a SQL server. This little page is an uploaded file. The elephant is the PostgreSQL databases. This orange that can get added to any of those is called Spice. So I'll talk about that in a second. And some people might see this little locked icon and wonder what that is. And that is row level security that can be applied to data sets. All right. So if you don't have an existing data set or a data source, you need to create one. So selecting on data sets, you want to select a new data set in the upper right-hand corner. And the screen that will pop up will always be the same. It'll show you to create a new data set from a new data source. Or if you scroll down, you'll see existing data sources that are available to you based upon your HARP permissions. This is usually where most people will want to go, because if you've set up a publishing pathway between your S3 workbench on the CDR side with Quicksight, you'll see this as a CCSQ data warehouse available option for your group. All right, so assuming we're going to go with that published workbench S3 bucket option, you'll select your organization, Redshift data warehouse organization. You'll create a data set, and from there, you'll see the available tables that are connected to your S3 workbench. Once you select the tables, you can then select the data within it that you want to visualize or use in your visualization. Oh, good question. Oh, it just disappeared. Is the publishing pathway established at the organization level or at the individual level? It's at the organization level. So whatever HARP organization you're associated with, you'll have those same permissions in Quicksight. All right, so after you've selected the table, you can either edit and preview the data, or you can use a custom SQL query to pull in that data that you want. So I just wanted to provide screenshots of what that looks like for each. And you can, and this is what it looks like. So you can preview it. You can also go in and add additional data sets to it. So if you have more than one table, you can go in and join that together in Quicksight if you haven't already done it in the SAS via or Databricks workbench. All right, so here's just an example. I wanted to kind of walk through the navigation of creating the data sets in Quicksight. So the first one that comes up is the query mode. There's, by default, it typically goes to direct query. There's also Spice. So some people have had questions in the past, like, well, how do I know which one to use? Or I don't have the availability to use a direct query, I only get Spice, is that okay? So Spice is only available if you are only uploading a file into Quicksight. Spice is also used for smaller data sets in Redshift or in data sets that you're joining from different data sources. So if you're joining multiple tables from Redshift, it will automatically go into Spice for you. And what is Spice? So Spice is an AWS Quicksight in-memory storage of that data. It should be noted that it does need to be refreshed. So if you're publishing new data into your S3 workbench, and then it comes into Quicksight, you will have to either set up a schedule to schedule the refresh in Spice. Otherwise, your data in your dashboard may be out of date. There is Spice capacity that's shared among all users in Quicksight. Right now, a max Spice data set set by Amazon is 500 million rows or 500 gigs. We do ask users, and we will help users who we see not using Spice data sets for 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months. We'll reach out and we'll ask you if they're still being used. If not, we will get your permission and we'll remove those from Spice. The question came up about, can we request more space in Spice? And at the application level, we can always get more Spice storage capacity, but at the individual data set level, you can't exceed 500 million rows or 500 gigabytes. That is a limitation put on every user within Quicksight, and that is not negotiable. There's a question about, can we connect to additional data sources, like an RDS data source from Quicksight? Yes, we can. I'll come back to that. And so then most times Spice is also used for smaller data sets that you could use a direct query from Redshift. Spice, because it's in memory, does have, depending upon your visualization, better performance in terms of refreshing and reloading data. Now, when you want to use a direct query, those are going to be for large data sets in Redshift. So things that exceed 500 million rows or 500 gigabytes that are in Redshift, you're going to have to use direct query for that. One of the benefits and one of the differences with doing the direct query from Redshift is that it will automatically pull in all the records from that data source every time the dashboard is used. So you don't have to schedule a refresh to remember that, hey, you updated your data and it's not being shown up in your dashboard like you do in Spice. You don't have to worry about that with the direct query in Redshift. I hope that answered the question about using an example dashboard where Spice is advisable to use. I think it kind of depends upon the visualization and the data. If you don't have Spice available to you, then you are limited to just direct query. If Spice is available to you and it meets those Spice dataset limits, I would say use it. If it makes sense that unless your data is getting updated, multiple times a day, you'll just need to make sure whether or not it makes sense to schedule the Spice refresh of your data or just to leave it in Redshift so that your data is automatically refreshed into your dashboard. All right, and then also when you're creating data sets, there's on the upper left-hand panel, there's a few different fields that you can use, and we'll go through that on the next page. So you can add fields, filters, or parameters to your data set in Quicksight. This is where, if you didn't do it already in Databricks or in SAS Viya, you can do it in Quicksight. And these are the various different options for creating those filters or a calculated field. It'll depend upon what kind of calculation you're trying to do, if it makes sense to do it in Quicksight or to do it before you load that data into Quicksight. All right. Can Quicksight connect to an API to pull in publicly available data on the web or your organization's CRM? That's a really good question. So the limitations on what is available to set up within Quicksight are the new data sources. So these do get updated with some frequency by Amazon, but not necessarily directly through any API. It has to be these supported products. And then does the direct query have the glue problems that we've seen? Yes, the direct query still does. The direct query versus Spice is just contained to Quicksight and loading the data to your dashboard. All right, so when creating a data set, there's capabilities that you can add to those. And just wanted to kind of highlight that here. I think depending upon your use case and your data, it may make sense to do that in Databricks, but if you want to, you can always add that in Quicksight, given these limitations. All right, and then the third key aspect about creating a data set is that you can add additional data to it. So you can join other data to the first data source that you selected. You can also manage it as well in terms of who else can access it, somebody in your group. And you'll always be able to kind of see what dashboards are using your data set by looking at the usage of that analysis. So Quicksight will track the linkage between all of these. So a data set can be used across multiple analyses and subsequent dashboards so that you don't have to create a single data set for a single analysis or dashboard, but you do have the ability to join across data sets at an analysis as well, if that makes sense for your group. All right, so now that you want to publish, now that you've created your data set and you can publish it, which basically just makes it accessible for use in Quicksight, I want to highlight the fact that newly created data sets are owned and visible only to you by default. You need to either add it to a shared folder so that others in your organization can access it and view it. And you can always go back and edit a data set as well from those three stacked bars on the right-hand side of any data set asset you have. You'll also see that you can do row level security and column level security. I'm not going to go into too much detail in this talk about it, but I will send out links if anybody is interested in that. Let's see, the question came in about, can data be pulled from heterogeneous cloud data such as Azure or Google Clouds? Yes, I just don't think that we've come across it within the CCSQ environment. So if that is your case, your use case, do reach out to me and we can work with your group, since there is a lot of permissions and security that we need to establish before bringing in anything else outside of the CCSQ environment. All right, so after you have your data set, you're ready to create your analysis. So selecting the analysis on the left-hand navigation panel, you can go and create a new analysis, and then you'll see all the data sets that you have access to build, to be used into building your analysis. You also have the three stacked bars on the analysis, and I just wanted to show those available options. You can either add it to a shared folder, or you can also manage the deletion of that analysis from this view. All right, so let's say you've selected your data set and you're ready to create your analysis. You'll first be presented with some overview information about your data set, the name. You'll see whether it's a direct query or if it's set up as Spice. You'll also see where it's been used and where that original data source came from or where it's linked to. You'll then have the ability to use it in an analysis. So you can go and select use in an analysis, and the analysis page will show up. You can also use a data set in another data set. So this is where you can join across data sets. If you need to go in and edit a data set before you create your analysis, you can do that here. You can also duplicate a data set if you want to go in and make additional changes to your data set, but you want to preserve the original data set, you can do that from this page as well. So this is your blank space. This is your canvas. This is where you all get to be artists with your development of your visualizations and reports. So a lot of features. I will say that just last week, Amazon released a new look to what this looks like. So I'm showing the original version that you can still toggle back to if you've been into Quicksight recently. So just some general navigations around analyses. So in the blue bar, you'll have the ability to go in and get additional data. You can undo any changes you make in your analysis. You can always add additional data sets, go back to your data sets through this tab, add parameters, add calculated fields. You can also, this is where you can do an insert an additional sheet or a page at the top. You can add insights, text fields, everything else like that. And then sheets as well. So you can kind of go in and edit everything if it's not just selectable through the interface directly. And then objects as well are the available options in that blue header for you. I will say it's important to leave the autosave on in case you happen to step away. Quicksight, because it's cloud-based, with that turned on, will automatically save everything so that you won't lose your work. All right, so getting started, once you have selected your data set, you can always go in and edit it, also from the little edit button. There's a lot of options within Quicksight to get to the same thing. So I would say whatever makes sense for you, go ahead and use. I just wanted to explore some of those options so that if people were curious about what they wanted, what this icon did, it's safe. You can go in and explore. You can also add sheets directly with that plus sign, and you can select whether or not it's an interactive sheet and how you want to get it to be laid out. Paginated reports is a feature that's available in Quicksight, but it hasn't been activated for our user community because of the pricing difference. We had one group who thought they were interested in using paginated reports, so we were able to kind of get them to test it out, but it didn't work out for their needs. As of now, I haven't heard of anybody else looking to use paginated reports, but if you are interested in using it, please reach out to me and we can talk through your specific use case needs on that. Now the fun part. There's a lot of different visual types that you can use when creating your dashboard. These are basically just the laundry list of what each of these icons are. And most times each of them is even further customizable than an initial presentation here. So go ahead if you already know what you want, or it's okay to also create the same visual but in different ways, and then work with your leadership or your end users to test out like, hey, does this convey the information that you need in an easier to consume format? You can absolutely do that at any point along the way. And then, the good question. Are there guidelines for arranging your data for Quicksight and other visualization software available? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. If you could, do you mean like setting up your data sets, or do you mean when creating your visualization and dashboard? You want to post, setting up those data sets. There aren't, because everybody's data is going to be different and unique. I would say avoid bringing in an entire CDR table to then build off of just one or two columns of data. You want to remember that you want to bring in the data that you need just to represent your dashboard. If you bring in a whole bunch of extra data that's not being used, it could slow down the performance in the loading of a dashboard or the filtering of a dashboard. So Quicksight is not going to be your Databricks or SASVIA where you want to do a whole bunch of large cross joins. It's once you have that curated data set, that's what you want to build your dashboard off of. not the CDR data lake entirely. I know that's kind of hopefully not too vague. Yeah. So back to the analysis, you can do a lot of customizations that you can add to your add to your dashboard. So this is where that control panel where you want to add in different filters. You can be very inclusive or exclusive. You could set it so that you could set it so that your dashboard only sees one of the variables available, and you can set that yourself. You can also just set it to include everything by default. So this is kind of where you need to decide what's best for your end users. All right, and then you can also create, Lacey, I just see your question now. I'm hoping this section of the presentation will try to at least help show what's available. Whether or not it makes sense for your particular use case depends upon what you're trying to do and build versus the state that your data is in. So the parameters. So this is something that you can create in Quicksight so that if you have multiple pages within your dashboard, you can set controls that are on sheet 1, but then drive the data, and it automatically applies those same filters on those additional sheets. So that's really helpful if you are building your dashboard in a way to kind of walk your users through filtering and representation of different data, but you don't want to put it all on one page. You could do parameters that way, so they don't have to go in and refilter on each subsequent page of the dashboard, but it kind of creates a more user-friendly interactive dashboard, the way they don't have to keep selecting all of the controls for each page of the dashboard. And then you have actions, and then you can have change settings. So actions are things that you can learn more about through AWS documentation, but I just wanted to call that in everybody's attention to this is an available option. And then the settings and the layouts can also be changed here, not just at the time that you create your sheet or add a new sheet to your analysis. You can always come back and change the format of a sheet after you've already started to create it. So if you can always go back and forth when it comes to your analysis. If you don't like what you've created and you want to go back, you don't have to start from scratch. You can go in and change these settings dynamically. All right, so you've gone through all the work of getting your data sets ready, your dashboard, your analyses built, all the visualizations that you want. You're now ready to publish that dashboard. That's what this icon in the upper right-hand corner is for. You'll select Publish Dashboard. If this is the first time that you've built this dashboard or this analysis, you'll have to publish as a new. If you come in and you are making changes to a dashboard you've already published, so you've gone back and edited the analysis, you'll still need to publish it for those changes to take effect. And in that second use case, the replace an existing dashboard will be an available option to you. So that way, like the URL for that dashboard will stay the same and the name will stay the same. So this should be easier for your users so they don't have to know, oh, there's a new dashboard by a slightly different name I need to start using instead of the other one. You could be making changes and they'll see the changes, but they won't notice it at the title level. And this is where you'll also have the ability to provide additional options that you want available or not available to your users. So I can't tell you what makes sense for your users. That's where you and your CMS leads are going to have to figure that out. But these are the available options to you within Quicksight, and you can turn them on or turn them off whenever you need to. All right, so like the data sets and analyses, once you publish it to the dashboard, it is not automatically shared to a shared folder. You need to come back and select the 3 stacked dots and then add it to a folder. You can also see recent snapshots if you're an author. this is where you can also control whether or not you need to just delete that entire dashboard as well. All right, so this is creating your dashboards, sharing them in a shared folder for your own internal use. But now that you want to share it with your end users, how do we do that? So this is where I'm going to go through a few different options. I don't know that all of them make sense for everybody's use case, but I wanted to at least share what's possible. So within Quicksight, there are 4 different ways that you can share a dashboard. One of them is through the shared folder. So that's where we create a shared folder for your organization, and you can put it in the prod, test, QA, or dev folder, and will automatically get shared to all the users who have access to one of those subfolders. You can also share it with an individual user. So you can keep it yourself as an owner and share it with 1 or 2 other people because you're just early in the development phase. You don't want it to be accessible to everybody. You can do that. You can also share it to individual groups. So every HARP organization in Quicksight is also set up as a user group. So if you need to share a dashboard with another HARP organization, you can do that through the user group setting here. You can also then enable it for everybody in CCSQ Quicksight to access that. So let's walk through what each of these situations looks like so that you'll know. So when you want to publish it to a shared folder, you'll find your dashboard, select the 3 dots, and you'll add to your folder. Your list of shared folders will be dependent upon your HARP org permissions. Mine are much more expansive because I'm here to help everybody. You won't see the same thing here, but this is what it'll look like. So if you want to add it to a shared folder, you'll click the arrow, it'll show down. And then this is where you'll see the root folders and then all of the subfolders. So your prod is just the name of your organization, and then you have your dev, test, and UAT folder. You can select which one of those you want to share it to. You should know that you can share a dashboard across multiple shared folders. So you could, always keep it in dev because that's where kind of your core group of people working on dashboards wants to keep it. You can publish the same dashboard across multiples. So don't think that you're limited to keeping it only in one of your subfolders. All right, now you want to share, let's say you want to share your dashboard with an individual user. This is where you can look up, share dashboard, and then invite the users or the groups, and you can start typing in the person's email address or their HARP or EUA ID, and then you'll be able to find them and you'll be able to add them. You'll have 2 options to add them, either as a viewer or a co-owner. Co-owners will only show up if that user is an author in Quicksight. If they don't have the ability to create dashboards, they will only be a viewer because viewers don't have access to the underlying data. And then similarly, if you need to share it with a user group within Quicksight, you could do the same thing. You select the share the dashboard icon and start typing in the Quicksight HARP user group. If anybody has questions about what that is, feel free to reach out to me and I can give you the list of user groups specific for your shared folder, or with CMS approval, if you need to share it with another HARP organization, I can get you those user group names as well. And again, you'll have the same option. They can either be a viewer or a co-owner, depending upon which user group it is. And because there are some user groups that only get view-only permissions, and then there are some user groups that are the authors. So again, that's why you'll see viewer or author, co-owner available only for those user groups that also have the author permissions. The nice thing about using user groups is that it means that it'll be available to everybody in that user group. So you don't have to come in and manually add individual users as your team builds or grows or your end user group gets bigger. Because all of these user groups are based upon HARP organizations, users will go to HARP and get added to it. And then you don't have to worry about anything in Quicksight as long as it's set up either at the shared folder or the user group level. All right, I'm going to answer that question about sharing outside of HARP in a few slides. So hold on to that. I'm not ignoring you. All right, so let's say you've created a fabulous dashboard and CMS or CCSQ leadership says, hey, share this with everybody. Everybody needs to have this really awesome dashboard with really critical data. You can do that. Instead of adding a user or a user group, below that is the enable access for everyone in this account. Once you select that, you'll also have the ability to make it discoverable within Quicksight, which means it will automatically show up on the home page for all users. You can leave that off if you want your dashboard available to everybody, but you don't want it to automatically show up on their dashboard homepage. That's what that discoverable in Quicksight toggle means. All right, that's how you can share dashboards within Quicksight. You can also set up emails. So you can send your dashboard as an email on some sort of recurring schedule as a PDF. This is limited, though, to users who also have a HARP or an EUA ID. This is not available to users who don't have a HARP or EUA ID. I don't think a lot of people are using this, but I know some people have tested it out. I think most people can use it if they need to, but I think being able to get your users into Quicksight and using the interactive natures of the dashboard is usually a lot more user-friendly than getting a static PDF of that dashboard. All right, so the question about how do you share outside of HARP? This is where embedded dashboards. The question came up last session about getting people access to HARP so they can access Quicksight. You can embed dashboards in other CCSQ applications. The two large groups that have already done this successfully are iKeys and EQRS. So if you have dashboards that need to get delivered to nursing homes, I would figure out if iKeys application is the correct place to deliver those dashboards. Also, EQRS has embedded their dashboards directly in their application, and they have over 13,000 users using those dashboards that are embedded in their application. So Quicksight is able to scale to a very large number of users using the embedded dashboard. The embedded dashboard is essentially the same experience, but not logging into Quicksight, CCSQ Quicksight. Instead, they're logged into that other CCSQ application. And within that application will be the dashboard. The same navigation, the same features, the same ability to do everything will be there. It's just that that black header bar above the blue bar that says Quicksight is gone. So it just removes some of the Quicksight branding when you go in to embed the application, embed a dashboard in an application. But all the other functionality about resetting, bookmarking, exporting, all of that is still there. So the big question about how do you share outside of CCSQ Quicksight? So the embedding that we just talked about is for registered users. So iKeys and EQRS are all, their whole application is still uses HARP IDs and EUA IDs. So more detailed instructions about how to embed dashboards for those users. Now, the question about how do I get dashboards to people who don't have a HARP or an EUA ID? Quicksight does have the ability to embed dashboards for what they call anonymous users. In this case, it would be for anybody who doesn't have a HARP or an EUA ID. This is currently not turned on because it's for public sharing. So that means that if we turned this on for the entire enterprise, we would need to, there's additional costs to CMS and CCSQ for this that we're currently working on. I expect that this feature will be available in the near future. But right now we're tracking this as a group by group request. So if your group is interested in embedding dashboards publicly, please reach out to me so that we can work together on more of your use case and details and make sure that we get CCSQ and CMS approval on this. Publicly embedded dashboards, because of the nature of being public, means that CMS and CCSQ are very tight and want absolute control over what dashboards get publicly embedded. And so we just want to make sure that those conversations get started now, not later, so that we can appropriately plan for it and get CMS review of what needs to be published publicly. I hope that answers the question about how you share outside of HARP. All right. Now, the question about access to Quicksight. So I mentioned before that if anybody who has a HARP or EUID, they need to do nothing, go to idm.cms.gov, and they'll automatically get access to Quicksight. But they'll only have access to those dashboards that have been shared with everyone in Quicksight. Now, if you want to get access to shared folders, this is where you're going to have to go to HARP and request a specific role for that organization to get access to that shared folder in Quicksight. So just simply walking through what that will look like. You go to harp.cms.gov, select request a role in HARP, and you'll want to select the program that's listed as CCSQ Quicksight. You'll select from the long list of HARP organizations, and then these are the different roles that are available: viewer, tester, approver, developer, and deployer. In HARP, there's security official. This role is only for HARP. It is not used in Quicksight. So the way that we've set up security officials for Quicksight program is that you can get added as a security official so that for your organization, for just Quicksight, so that if you're onboarding a whole bunch of end users and you don't want your normal HARP organization security officer approving tens to hundreds of users requests, you can work with your security official and get a limited security official role just for CCSQ Quicksight role requests in HARP. I just wanted to call that out because we've had some groups onboard a large number of users and it drove their security official nuts. So I wanted to call that out beforehand so that you guys can work out that internally with your organization. So now the question is, all right, first question is, I don't see my HARP organization listed in HARP. Reach out to us, or you can reach out to the HARP onboarding team and we can get you set up so that your HARP organization shows up under the CCSQ Quicksight program in HARP. The other question that typically comes up is, well, which role should I select? So this table is here to help differentiate what is accessible to each role. So a viewer, you can think of as your absolute end users. They will only see your shared folder and that production subfolder, and they will only see dashboards assets that are in that folder. The approver will have access to two subfolders, but still only have access to the dashboard assets in either of those folders. And similarly, the tester will have access to all four subfolders, but only the dashboard assets. So these first three are the Quicksight viewer role. So they only can view dashboards. They don't get access to data sets or analysis assets. That's where the developer and the deployer differentiate. So your developer is somebody who can create data sets, analyses, dashboards, but only in the dev and test folders. So not something that you would use this for developers in your group who you don't want the ability to publish a dashboard to your production folder, for example. That's where the deployer comes in. The deployer role has the ability to publish dashboards to your production folder and your UAT folder. This is all recapped on the CCSQ Data Analytics Confluence page. And if you get started instructions and select Quicksight, this is the same thing that I just walked through the last two slides. So don't feel like you have to remember it here. We have it documented. But if you ever need help, always feel free to reach out to me. Now, there's another question about Quicksight and your S3 Workbench integration. So I believe we've set up almost all groups with a published workbench that is available for use in CCSQ Quicksight. If you don't see that as an available option in Quicksight, please reach out to us. If you're a new group that has been onboarded to the CDR within the last, I think, 9 to 12 months, you automatically have this S3 workbench on your side for SAS Viya and Databricks. We just might have missed it in our review of that. And if so, just reach out to us and request a shared folder in Quicksight, and then we'll set up the necessary linkages to your published workbench folder on the CDR side. You can either do that through a ServiceNow ticket and include the name of your publishing path, or you can reach out to us on Slack as well. All right, so I hope I've answered some questions, but I know that's not all the questions one could have. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knew where to go after this. So the first one is Amazon Quicksight User Guide. This is the how-to book on everything on how to use Quicksight. Because it's an Amazon hosted tool, they're constantly putting out new updates, new features all the time. Sometimes it's really well advanced, the notice about it. Sometimes you'll just be like, hey, this thing changed. I missed the notice inside Quicksight. Go back to the user guide because they always keep that up to date and in sync with all of their releases. So this is an invaluable source to always use when referencing how to use Quicksight. Also, Amazon has a lot of really great training sessions that have been recorded. So if you're a visual learner, this is a great resource where they'll walk through how to do things in Quicksight that may not always be well communicated in the user guide. And so it's just sometimes really nice to see something in action and how it's created to help kind of bridge some of the documentation gaps. Or if you're a visual learner like myself, I really like these. Again, because Quicksight is an Amazon supported tool, they're constantly coming up with new features, new releases, and they typically send out notices and documentation and videos on those. So check out their page there for that. And as always, we're here to help. We don't want anybody to feel stuck within Quicksight. Reach out to us on Slack. And this is also an opportunity to kind of ask other CCSQ Quicksight users questions like, hey, how did you overcome this? Or I'm trying to do this, or I have this use case. Did somebody else have a similar use case? How did you explain it to CMS? Like, we're all here to help each other, right? We want to make sure that CCSQ gets the data they need to make informed decisions. And that really comes down to, how the data is presented and how they can access it within Quicksight. So let's use that community, because I've seen some really awesome stuff come out on Quicksight. But also, if you're getting stuck and you don't know where to go, just reach out. We monitor that channel every day, and we want to make sure that we get people unstuck as quickly as possible. All right, that's the end of my formal presentation. I want to make sure that we have time to go through questions that I may have missed in the chat. So I think I left off with Mark. You had questions about box plots. Why, when sorting, do the tails of the distribution get mixed up? This is sorted, the next is not, but of the same data. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. Maybe you and I can connect after this session in the next day or so, and we can help sort that out. I have to say, I don't typically use box plots in Quicksight, so I can't answer that one right now. All right, Chid, we have developed some Quicksight dashboards and our testers are able to internally review using the folder structure. After this, how do we share the dashboards with our end users at CMS? So, great question. This is where you'll want to publish that dashboard in your production folder. And then anybody who's a viewer for your organization will have access to it. I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, feel free to post a follow-up clarification question and I can help you. Could you provide the links to? The links are hyperlinked in the slides, and I know that those will be published after the presentation, and I can also put them in the help CCSQ Quicksight Slack channel after this presentation, so everybody can reference those. Yes, you will have access to these slides and these links. And how do you establish that connection to the CCSQ data warehouse? Reach out to us. That we'll have to confirm that you have your publishing workbench folder set up on the CDR side. I'm assuming it always is. And then from there, we'll just have to create the shared folder in the user groups and then create that linkage to your published workbench folder. What is the best way and who is the best person to reach out to? The best way to reach out to us is for quick responses is Slack. The help Quicksight Slack channel is here in the CCSQ QualityNet Slack account. And everybody on the STAR team has access to it, but I typically take point. So you'll start with me. And then if I need to bring in anybody else to help resolve some issues, I'll do that on a as needed basis. All right, I'll give everybody another minute or two to type in some questions that you might have. Julia, was there anything else that I missed in the chat?
Not that I've seen. I've been trying to keep pretty careful watch, and I think you've answered them all so far.
Right. All right, Chid, I see another question. So you're a contractor for CMS, and I believe our end users at CMS are by default are not a part of our production folder to become a viewer. That is correct. We've developed some Quicksight dashboards in our testers. Yes, so you can either, you can have your CMS users go into HARP and select the viewer role for your HARP organization. If you have the unique case where you need to share it with everybody in CMS, reach out to me. We have a user group that includes everyone in CMS, and I can help get you connected to that user group. But if it's only a subset of CMS users that you need to share your dashboards with, have them request the viewer role for your HARP organization under CCSQ Quicksight, and then they'll be able to access your shared folder, the subfolder for production, and access any dashboards you have there for them. Great. I know Quicksight has a lot of features and a lot of different ways and options. So, you know, again, please reach out if you have questions, you want to talk through, you know, chalk talk something about a dashboard you have or how you want to share it. There's never really, it's hard to say that there's always a canned response to this because there are so many nuances and different options for sharing. I want to make sure that we're getting it right for your end users while also being secure. So I appreciate the questions. Even if you feel like it's been asked before, please ask it again. I want to make sure everybody gets what they need out of Quicksight, and your users are getting access to the awesome work and data that they need to do their job better. So feel free to continue to ask questions. Samir, all right, is there any version management available in Quicksight for release management? Really good question. I think it depends on if you're constantly making changes to analyses and you want to maintain like a prior version. Quicksight has, they have the version history available for data sets. For analyses, I know that it's being worked out. But I would say the best thing to do before you start changing an analysis is kind of do a version control, where you want to copy an existing analysis and then, appendage with like v1.1 or something. Make your visualization changes in that new analysis. And then once you've worked it out and your internal release management process says, yes, replace the current dashboard with the one you just created in this new analysis, that's where you can publish and then replace it as an existing dashboard. That way you'll have access to both different versions, but you can publish to the same dashboard that way. I hope that it helps answer that. Yeah, I expect that Amazon will eventually have some more elegant versioning of the analyses, but right now that's what I suggest to do. Can we download the Quicksight dashboard file for offline use or share? Yes, you can print off a PDF of your dashboard, and then you can share that. You can do the embedded dashboard in other applications so that they can get that interactive controls within the dashboard. But there isn't, like, you don't just download the interactive dashboard outside of Quicksight to use like natively on a desktop. All right, other questions anybody has at the moment? All right, Mark, I keep thinking about your box plots and nothing's coming to mind. It's totally possible that there might be a bug in Quicksight. So again, if you feel like something's off, reach out to me. We do have access to AWS enterprise support for Quicksight. Some of the times it might not be you, it might be Quicksight, and we can open up support tickets and escalate according to severity. We've had to do it a few times, but I will say Amazon support's been really great. So again, don't feel like you're stuck. It might not be you, it might be Quicksight, but we're here to help. Quicksight and AWS support is really great. And yeah, make sure we connect on Slack if anything else comes up.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. So this concludes our presentation today on Quicksight. Thank you so much to Sarah for presenting today. Our next session will begin at 4 p.m. and the focus will be on data and analytics portal. We're going to take a break from now until 4 p.m. So please be sure to rejoin us then at that point. Thank you so much.